if I were you before you start, you guys at home, I would have this written down and this written down so you can take notes easier. I went ahead, look, I have it for every single one of them. That's how you start. You know what you're going to do. You have your issue, your problem here. This is what we're looking for, our coordinate points, yada, 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 on down the line. So the first thing we need to do is understand that there's a -1 in front of that. So let's go over here. Negative b, well, b is -6, so the opposite of -6 is 6. The 2 is the constant. It's always there. We were just replacing the b and the a. And the a is -1. The top is already solved. We have to solve the bottom. 2 times -1 is -2. And 6 divided by -2 is -3. So what do we do with that? Well, that's the x, so we've replaced the x's in the equation so we can solve for y. Put -3 in there. Grab our calculator. We're going to put -1, parenthesis, -3, parenthesis. Make sure you square it. -6, parenthesis, -3, parenthesis. And then we're going to subtract 10. It equals when we get -1. This is a coordinate point. So we go -3 and -1, which is right there. That indicates our axis of symmetry as well as our vertex. This is the vertex, this is the axis of symmetry.
It's a line under the it's a straight line.
What's a straight line?
It's not there's a line under the greater than the less than.
Right, it's going to be a solid line. Okay, so we're going to pick -2. I'm going to pick -2. You could pick -4. We're just counting from that -3. So let's put -2 in there. And we have easy peasy with the calculator. Bam, switch it as a 2. So it's still -2 in there. Hit your equals, and you get -2. And that's perfectly fine. So we go to -2, -2, which is right there. Now we go from the vertex, we went down 1, right 1, so we're going to go down 1, left 1. And yes, as Romeo pointed out, there is a line under it, so it's going to be a solid line. What is facing the y? The greater or the less? Anybody? What's facing the y? The greater or the less? The less. If I get right here on the stern of the boat or the bow of the boat, and I jump to the less is down, I jump where? On or off the boat? You jump on the boat, therefore you shade the boat. Do not make a mistake. I had a kid that decided that he wasn't going to do that little thing because he knew that if it was less, it was the boat, and if it was greater, it was the water. No, it's not. It depends on which way the ship, the boat, is going. Remember, this looks like the front of a ship, like it's just coming into the picture. Okay? That's the water it's going through. Should be a good reference with the whole Panama, or no, it was a Suez Canal accident where the ship got wrecked in there. So here we go. Let's get to the next one. We're going to do that -b divided by 2 times the a. So our b is 12, so the opposite of 12 is -12. And then our a is 2. So we put our constant 2 down, and then in the inside we're going to put 2. That's the part that changes. That 2 is always there. So that 2 changes. The -12 is already done. And 2 times 2 is 4. And then we do -12 divided by 4, which is -3. We take our -3, we go back to our equation that we switch the x's to parentheses, and we put -3 in there. We go to our calculator and we put in 2 parenthesis, and it's a negative 3 parenthesis. Make sure we square it. We're going to add 12, use the parenthesis and a negative 3 in there. That's 12 times negative 3. And then we're going to add 20. Make sure I wrote that down right. Yes, I did. And hit equals. And we get 2. That is our first coordinate point and also our vertex. So we go to negative 3 on the x and 2 on the y. And there we have the vertex. And from that, we have the axis of symmetry, which is at negative 3. Then we go ahead and we pick the next number. We just count negative 4 or negative 2. I prefer negative 2. So now we put negative 2 into our parentheses. If you're here, our wonderful, fantastic calculators, you just delete the 3, put the 2. It equals, and we get 4. That is our next coordinate point. So we go to negative 2 on the x and 4 on the y, and that's way up there. We went 1, 2, and 1 to the right, so we're going to go 1, 2, and 1 left from the vertex, that part right there. Dotted or solid line? Solid line. What's that? All right, less or greater on this one? Less. So we get on the bow or the stern of the ship and we jump less, which is down. And where do we land? On the ship or in the water? We're in the water. So look, between the two that we just did, they both were less. One was we landed on the boat when we went down. The other one we landed in the water when we went down. So make sure that you're standing on the stern of the ship, the very tip, you know, where Leonardo DiCaprio on, Titanic was up there with his girlfriend, and either going to fall into the water or jump back on the ship. In this particular case, less is down. We're in the water. What's that? All right, so if we have that down, make sure you're pausing this as need be at home watching this video, because you can pause it, get everything written down, and then listen to it again. You can rewind it or move it back a little bit so you get the idea of what's going on. All right, once again, we want to do our negative b over 2a. So our b is 12, so that would be negative 12 because that's the opposite of b. And then we are going to take a, which is negative 2. So we have 2 times negative 2. The 2 is just there. A is negative 2. So the negative 12 is already solved for us. We have 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And negative 12 divided by negative 4 is just 3. Go to our first equation. Put our 3 in there. Go to our calculator. We're going to put, that's negative 2, parenthesis 3, parenthesis square it, plus 12 times 3, that's what our parenthesis is, minus 21 on this one, equals, and we get negative 3. That's our first coordinate point, our axis of symmetry, and our vertex. So we go to 3 on the x and then down to negative 3 on the y. Since 3 is our axis of symmetry, we'll put our line there. Pick the next number. We could count up to 4 or down to 2, and I like 2. Go into our wonderful, fantastic calculators and change our 3's to 2's. And we get negative 5. So we have 2, negative 5. So we go to 2 on the x and down to negative 5, which is right there. And since we went down 2 and left 1, we go down 2 and right 1. Dotted or solid line? Yes, this one is a dashed line or dotted, however you want to say it. I don't know why I say dotted, but it's dashed. So we dash it. That means anything that appears on that, any coordinate point that ends up on there is not going to solve this appropriately. And is this greater or less? Greater. So if we get on the peak, on the Leonardo DiCaprio part of the ship, the stern, and we go greater, greater is always up, and we jump, where do we end up? On the ship or in the water? In the water. So you shade the water. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right. Let's get to the fourth one. Remember at home, if it's too fast, pause, stop, get this written down before you start the video up again. Negative b over 2a. B is negative 16. So it's the opposite of negative 16, which is 16. And the 2 is the constant. We want to find a. A is negative 2. The top is done, 16, but we do have to clean this up. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And then we divide. 16 divided by negative 4, negative 4. Because one of them is negative. So that's the first number we'll throw into our parentheses, or what we substituted for our x. Get our wonderful calculator. It's negative 2 times negative 4 to the second power minus 16 times negative 4 minus 33. And we get negative 1. Everybody see that? Yep, there it is. Negative 1. That's our first corner point. We go to negative 4 and then down to negative 1 on the y. Negative 4 on the x, down to negative 1 on the y. That is also the axis of symmetry and our vertex. Yep, somebody said it's going to be a solid line. But we need one more point. So we're either going to count down to negative 5 or up to negative 3. I like negative 3. It's closer to 0. So we put negative 3 in there. And then we just take a trip through memory lane here, delete the 4, make it a 3, equals, and we get negative 3 as an answer. So it's negative 3, negative 3. We go negative 3 on the x, negative 3 on the y, and it's right there. Now we want the other dot on the other side, the symmetrical one. We're going to go from the vertex. We went down to right 1, so we're going to go down to left 1. And as Romeo pointed out, it is a solid line because there's a line. And anybody less or greater? It's less. So we go to the stern and we jump less, which is down, and we are inside the ship or the boat. And there you have it. Easy peasy. If you got any questions at home, let me know. You guys here, or you can ask me any questions you want from here on out. All right, good luck.